the events part of JavaScript. There are some more concepts left in events, namely bubbling and capturing, right? So we'll just understand in a minute what they actually mean, right? And then after this is done, we would have completed a large part or everything that we have in our course for DOM, right? How JavaScript basically interacts with HTML and, it can change HTML, it can attach listeners to it and all that kind of things. After that, guys, we have some other portions left in JavaScript. They are basically about some more fine granular details about objects, then asynchronous programming, how do you make network calls in JavaScript and all that kind of stuff, right? So today we'll quickly try to finish this, and yeah, that's the idea. Okay, so before we begin, let's just try to understand what we had done yesterday, right? So if you remember, we had created this school project / app, whatever you want to call it, right? Wherein what happens, guys, is whenever you are on this page, right? This HTML page. So there is an initial status of the mouse, which is actually disabled and not enabled. Let's fix that also while we are at it, right? And mouse enabled is false, right? So right now mouse is disabled, right? Which means nothing is happening. So the feature is when you click enable mouse and the mouse is enabled, when you go on this guy, something should happen, right? So we'll just flip the listeners because it's reversed, right? So I'll just put a knot here, and that should probably make everything work as expected. Yep. Okay, great. So what is happening, guys, here is when we click enable mouse, it's now the mouse is enabled, right? And now whenever you move to this guy, it says mouse on me. Whenever the mouse moves out of it, it says mouse not on me. And you can keep doing this, right? And each time it happens, the text here changes, right? But this is only happening when the mouse is enabled, right? When you say mouse disable, what is going to happen is it's not going to work here. Again, we'll flip the text here. In this guy, we are saying disabled to enabled and vice versa, right? Enable, right? Anyway, all those things you can anyway work on, but the concept was very simple, right? But how did we go about implementing this, right? We did a couple of things, right? So the first knowledge that it required for us is we wanted a listener on click, right? So we took our button, we added a click event listener on it. Now, whenever the click event listener is kind of getting triggered, right? We are doing our thing, right? So basically, we made a flip switch. So what happens is whenever you click or unclick it, there's a variable which is changing states, right? So how does it work? First of all, we created a mouse enabled named variable using let, right, which was set to false, right? Then here we have a method or a function. What that function does is it just flips this variable, right? So if it was false, it would make it true. If it was true, it will make it false, right? So these are the important bits of our code, right? Then, guys, we have selected two HTML elements, right, at the very beginning. One is the button. Second is the grid parent, which is basically this guy, this blue guy, right? Finally, what we do is we needed two functions which we will be passing to mouse, which we will be providing as mouse handlers. Okay. So inside this add event listener place, we have two checks. There is one if here and there is one else here, right? So this guy checks, hey, if the mouse is not enabled, right? If the mouse is not enabled and it was clicked, then change the text to enabled mouse, right? And you should change disabled to enabled, right? So we just fix that also very quickly. Actually, just flip these. This goes here, and this goes here. Okay. So we say enable mouse, we change the text of it, and we call flip switch. What flip switch will do, guys, it will just change mouse enabled to the other value. So earlier it was false, now it will become true, right? And then we also attach a mouse enter listener and a mouse exit or a mouse out listener on this guy, right? So what it means is whenever we click on the button and the status is enabled, there is an event listener, right? And because there is an event listener, this thing works. Right, guys? Does everyone understand this? Okay, great. Now, so basically what happened is when you clicked enable, this guy flipped its switch, right? So now mouse enabled is true, right? When you again click this button, now since there was an event listener on it, this time what will happen is this part is not going to execute. What is going to execute is this else part, right? So when this else part executes, we change the text of the button. Second is we flip the switch back, right? So basically this is to mark, hey, now the button should change its behavior. Sorry. Right. Finally, change the text of the button and remove these event listeners. So the important bit about removing event listeners is, again, it requires two parameters. One is which listener do you want to target to remove? So mouse enter and the function, right? And that's why we realize that we can't have anonymous functions here, right? So if I put this guy, if I make like this, right, then it's not going to work, right? Because add event listener is going to happen, but remove event listener, when you again give that anonymous function, there is no reference to that function, right? So deliberately what we did is we took two event listener functions, move them out of here, and then we are just passing them, one here, the other here. Is everyone clear with this? Simple enough? Guys, everyone say yes if you're okay with this. If there is any question, please ask. Huge program for a little mouse. It's a very small program, actually. Wonderful. Okay, now we move to a few other concepts, right, guys? So what I'm going to do is I'll just remove all of these, okay? Or rather comment out these things. And what you will be left out is just this white page, right? Now, guys, what we are going to do is we are going to understand a very important concept here, right? This concept goes like this. Okay, so imagine I had this grid pairing guy, right, which is this thing, and I'm going to uncover some of them. I'm going to uncomment is what I'm saying. Right. Now, what I'll do is I'll still keep these guys commented, right? Inside item 1, I'm going to place another div, which is called item 2, right? And inside this guy, I'm going to place yet another div, which is called item 3. And I'm going to call this innermost. Okay. And we'll just give them some colors so that we can distinguish between them. So this is grid child 2, grid child 3, and grid child 1. Let's see what it looks like. It looks like this, guys. Let's zoom in a bit, right? And we'll just give it some colors so that we can uniquely identify it. Right. So I'm going to say dot grid child 3, right? And can anyone tell me how we can give this color? Can anyone tell me how to give this color? Guys, someone please tell me. How do you use CSS to give color? Okay, great. Background. Color is for, and we'll give it probably this color, right? Okay. So the innermost guy has this color, right? Grid child 2 also we would want to have some color, and I'm going to say background color, and I'm going to make it let's say blue violet, right? And finally the grid child 1. I hope that's what the name is. Yes, it's called grid child 1. To this guy, we're going to give some other color. Maybe this one. Right. And at the end, I'm just going to make the upper one without this light blue color because otherwise I can't see. I'll just call this. Okay, so this is what we have now. Right, guys? And just so that this kind of becomes bigger, what can we do to make them bigger? We can just give them more padding, right? So I'm going to give this guy 50 pixels. This guy also 50 pixels. This guy also 50 pixels. And similarly for this guy, 50 pixels. Right? Okay, probably that was too big. Right? Can we see, are we able to see everyone? The screen? Okay, wonderful. Now, what I want to tell you guys is a simple concept, right? So guys, what I'm going to do is I want to attach an event listener to the innermost guy, right? Can anyone help me? How can I attach that event listener? Or rather, let's attach one to the outermost guy. Can you guys tell me how to attach an event listener to the grid child, which is the top grid child 1 or item 1? Let's just make this grid child 1. I want to attach a click listener to it. How to do that, guys? Anyone? Please help out. And of course, we'll just comment this code. Okay, Mayank. Mayank, shall I unmute you? Will you help me with this? Okay, wonderful. Let's hear Mayank after a very long time. Okay, one sec, Mayank, I'll unmute you. Mayank. Go ahead, Mayank.
Hello, sir.
Hello, Mayank. Can you go?
Sir, एक बार code दिखाएंगे, sir?
Yes, the code looks like this.
Sir, first of all, we have to select the element, sir.
Which is that element? The outermost one?
Grid child 2, sir.
Is that the outermost one?
Outermost one, no, sir. Grid child 1, sir.
Yeah, I mean, the most outer one is grid parent.
Grid parent, sir.
I'm just talking about this guy. So this guy is grid child 1.
Yes,
right?
sir.
Okay.
Yes.
So how do we select this?
Document.get element by class name.
It's not get element, it's always get elements.
Elements, yes, sir.
And what's
the 0, sir?
Why do we write 0?
Because the first element को select करना है, sir.
Because this guy gives an array-like object.
Sir, इसे एक variable में store कर दीजिए, yes, sir.
Outermost div. Does this work?
Yes, sir.
Now we want to attach a click listener to it.
Sir, outermost div, sir. And then, sir, add event listener, sir.
Dot add event listener.
And then, sir, click
in string.
And sir, callback function, sir.
Callback function. Okay. And we
yes.
Do log. Click on outermost. That's a good one, Mank.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So guys, what Mank has basically helped us with is an event listener on the outermost div, right? The point that I'm trying to make is, please understand this. So if I click here, right? If I click here, should that event listener get triggered? Of course, it should, right? So it got triggered when I clicked on the outermost div, which is perfect, right? Which is what we want. However, consider this, when I'm clicking on this guy, it's still getting triggered. Right, guys? And if I click on this, then also it's getting triggered. Right? And again, all these three are basically triggering that element. Right? So guys, going by that logic, what is the outermost parent that we know of? What is the outermost parent? It's body, right? Grid parent ke bhi bharamat. It's body, right? So going by this logic, if let's say we had an event listener on body, right? Let's try that. Will that also get fired? So I'll just create a variable called body. How do we select body? Anyone? Okay, पूरा बोलो ना, Sunny. Yes, that also we can do, man. I'm just going to say body. Body. Okay, so this guy selects body. HTML. Right? Now I'm removing this event listener and I'm placing one on body. Right? Okay, perfect. Let's go here. Right? And reload the browser, of course. Body of HTML is not a function. Document.get elements. Okay. What about this? Okay. Where are these 60 and 20 coming from? I really want to get rid of them. Index, yes, 432. 432. Okay. And bye-bye. Nice. So guys, now when I click this, what should happen? Click on automotive, right? Let's call that as body, just to avoid any confusion. Click on this is also click on body. Click on this is also click on body. Click on innermost is also click on body. And of course, the click on body itself is a click on body, right? Because body is everywhere, right? So what is happening is this phenomena which we are facing, guys, is called the phenomena of bubbling, right? So let's just try to understand what just happened. So guys, actually bubbling is pretty simple. Okay. So what is bubbling? What is the principle of bubbling? It says whenever an event happens on an element, it will first run its event handlers, then on its parents, then on its grandparents, and then it will keep bubbling up, right? It will just keep from the deepest element, guys. It will just keep rising and rising to the topmost element, right? You know, just like when you start boiling water, bubbles from the very bottom, they bubble up, right? Did we understand, guys, the concept? Events bubble up to the top. Repeat. Okay. Repeat. Okay. 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 What have I said, guys? Right now, I am having an event listener on body, a click event listener on body, right? When I click on this button, right, what is happening is this is also getting recorded on the body. This is also getting recorded on the body. And this one is also getting recorded on the body. And of course, the click here on body, I'm clicking my mouse right now, is getting recorded on the body, right? But if you look at it, the event listener was applied on body, right? It was not applied on the divs or the inner divs or whatever, right? Okay, so then I said, why is this happening? It's happening because of the principle of bubbling, right? Principle of bubbling. And spelling. Right? What is the principle of bubbling? The principle of bubbling states that whenever there is an event, right, which is happening on an inner child, right, that event will keep bubbling up all the way to the top, right? So any click essentially on this div starts bubbling up. So first it will bubble to its parent, which is this guy. Then it will bubble to this guy, and finally it will bubble to the body, right? This is what bubbling is. This is what the principle of bubbling in event listeners in HTML is. Did you guys understand? Clear to everyone what bubbling is? Guys, yes or no? Any specific questions that are coming to your mind, please ask. Okay. It bubbled to its children. So, but here it bubbles to it. It bubbled to its children. No, Rahul. See, Rahul, understand this. Where are we starting this from? We are starting it from the inner child, right? Which is from the child, the innermost child, right? It's bubbling up in the sense it started from the very bottom, right? If you visualize this as a tree, right? What will happen is the event starts at the very bottom of the tree because you are creating that event, a click on this guy, right? And then the click is bubbled to its parent, then its parent, and then its parent. Okay. And let's just understand. Yeah, that's how bubbles go up, right? Like from the innermost to the topmost. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'll say outermost div and I'll just copy the same code. Right. And we'll have two other things also. I'm going to call this center div, middle div, that was grid child 2, and finally innermost div. That was grid child 3, right? What we'll do is we'll assign event listeners to each one of them. So outermost, then to middle. Let's just copy this. And finally, middle spelling. And finally to the innermost div. Right? And of course, we'll just name them appropriately. So this was click on inner, this was click on middle, inner, and of course this was body, right? Let's now see, guys, what happens. Okay, reload the page, of course, for the changes for the code to go. Now I'm going to click on this guy, right? Please pay attention to this part, to the console. What happened is, and in which order it happened is also very important, right? First, the event happened on innermost div, right? Because now we have a click listener on innermost, so we are able to listen to it, right? Then the same event, the event which happened here, it bubbled up to the middle div, right? The result you see here, click on middle div. Then this event even propagated to the outermost div, which is this guy, right? And finally, it propagated to the body, and that's where it stopped. Did we understand? Right? Okay, but let's make sure that, hey, it's not like a click here should be considered as a click on inner div, right? So let's try that out. I'm going to click on this blue area, purple area now, this one. I click here. What does it say, guys? Middle div, outermost div, body, right? And when I click on this guy, the outermost div, now it's just outermost div and body, right? And when I finally click on the body, of course, it's just the body. Is everyone clear with this now? Right? And guys, it does not matter how deep you go, okay? So even if there was a div inside a div, inside a div, inside a div, inside a div, many, many divs, right? Thousands of divs also if you had, this principle is going to still apply. Is everyone clear with the concept? Very important concept in the world of HTML and DOM. Really nice, guys. Okay, so we know what bubbling is now, right? Okay, now let's understand this. Okay, we are absolutely clear with bubbling, right? Remember, guys, every event, right? Almost every event in the world of HTML bubbles, right? Please focus on the word almost, because there are some events which do not bubble, right? These are events which we apply on input boxes and focus events. Not really important right now, but once we start, doing more of React, that's where we will encounter such events. Okay, but if you just search about events, there are There are just too many events, guys, in the world of DOM, right? So we've talked about click, we've talked about mouse. So basically, what were these? These were mouse events, right? Similarly, there are events which listen to a keyboard, right? So basically, when you're typing, you can check, hey, what the customer is typing, what the user is typing, right? Anyway, that's not the point. The point is all events, almost all events bubble, right? But what we should understand is this event, right, which is bubbling, right? So there is a concept of getting the target element, right? So guys, if you look at this very carefully, right, there was one thing which we have not covered up until now. Let me quickly explain that to you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to comment all of these, right? And now I just have an event listener here, right? Just on the innermost stuff. So you can make sure of that, because now when I'm clicking here, here, nothing is happening, right? Okay. Now let's understand this. Guys, this callback, right, which innermost div takes. So if you remember, if you had an array, right, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, and let's say you stored it in a variable called ARR, and now you wanted to run a dot map on it, right? Can anyone tell me what this dot map function used to take? क्या लेता था मैं बताओ? What did this dot map function used to take? अरे what did it used to take as a parameter, बाबा? Modify क्या होता है? Callback function, right? So it took a callback function. All of us know about it. But guys, if you remember one thing, there were some parameters in this callback function, right? Right, Pratik? What were those parameters? So there was element, the current element of the array, and there was index, right? So guys, why am I talking about this right now? Because what I'm trying to tell you is, just like map took a callback function which had certain parameters, it's just as true for DOM events, right? So basically, this guy also takes an argument or a parameter, right? But we don't know what that parameter is right now. Okay, so I'm just going to call it param. And now, just to understand what does this guy contain, how can we check what this guy contains? How can we check what this thing has? अरे कॉल क्या फंक्शन थोड़ी ना है. We can console log it, right, just to see what is inside it. Okay, perfect. Now let's go here, reload the page, and now when I click this, there should be a console.log. Clicked it, and wow, I see a lot of things here, guys, right? Let's just open this, and it is gigantic, right? No, Pratik, param is any keyword. I can write Pratik here also, that will also work. It's the same thing, right? It's just a variable name. But I'm writing param because param stands for parameter. So you're right in that sense, but just understand this, that it is just a variable name, right? So the variable name could be anything. Okay, perfect. Now when I click this and I look at this pointer, right, this event, there are too many things here, guys, right? So these are the kind of things that you need to know when you're really dealing with very, very intricate DOM properties, right? But for our sake, I'll just tell you that this event, this parameter is typically called as event, right? Because what has happened? A click event has happened, right? And the one that we need to focus on is that this event has something called as target. Okay. Now, when we run this, now this time I'm console.logging target. Cool. Now when I click this, what does it say, guys? What does it say? What is it giving me? Can anyone tell me what this is? Not the innermost, man. The point is, it will give me the starting point. right? Okay, now let's try to understand this even further. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove this event listener on innermost, right? I'll just take care of the body event listener. Right? So now that it is on body, and here's a mention event. Okay, let's see what is the value that we get. Reload the browser, click this, and what do you get? What do you get, guys? You get this guy only, right? So basically, have we figured out a mechanism to determine where the click event generated from? Right? Now, when I click here, it says body. When I click here, it says grid child 1, grid child 2, and grid child 3. Right? So HTML or JavaScript DOM is smart enough in the sense that whichever thing or whichever place you click, it will tell you, hey, this click originated from here. Right? Which is a very important property, guys. I'll just explain it why in a second. Right? But did everyone get the concept? Yes? Okay. So event.target, even the most deeply nested element, right? Which was clicked, even that guy is going to get its access, right? So event.target is the target element that has initiated this event, right? This is the guy which initiated this event, right? And just to understand what happens, now I'm going to uncomment all of these. Right? And just to prevent the noise, I'll comment out these guys. And in every one of them, I'm just going to console.log event. Event.target. Console.log event.target. Console.log event.target. Right? Now with our knowledge, we know when we click on the innermost, it's going to bubble up from inner to middle to body to outermost to body. Right? When I do that, the target does not change. This is the point that I was trying to make. Right? Even if it had to bubble up thousands of nodes, target does not change. Extremely important concept. Is everyone clear with this? The target at each stage of the bubbling will remain as it is, will remain constant. Guys, are we okay with this? Good. Okay. Now, just to understand this a bit better, guys, so bubbling is usually a good thing, right? But there could be cases where bubbling is not required, correct? Because you've just created one event, and you don't want this guy to go all the way to the top, right? Okay, so of course, DOM gives you a mechanism to stop this event from going all the way to the top, right? We'll just talk about that in a second, right? Before that, I wanted to tell you guys about the concept of target, current target, right? So just like there is event.target, there is something called as event.current target, right? Now we'll simply put all of them here. Right, so now I'm logging target as well as current target. And let's see what happens. Reload the browser. And here is what happens. Right. So when it was on the innermost div, the target and the current target were inner that div. However, when the event bubbled up to the outer div, right, the target is still innermost. Right. Why is that? Because simply target is the one which originated the event. However, the current target on which you are at is this div. Right. Similarly, target, and all the way, right? Everyone clear with target and current target? Okay, cool. Now, this was about targets, right? Now, coming to the important bit, right? So now we know how bubbling works, right? The bubbling event goes straight from the target element all the way to the top, right? To the body. And it'll actually go even up, but that's what we need to know, right? Guys, but the good thing is we have the capability of stopping it, right? And how do we stop it? It's actually this event element only, which can give you the mechanism to stop it. Let's look at it. So again, the same code. However, this time I'm going to uncomment these guys and comment these guys. Okay. So just to see if everything is still working, reload, click it, and you see innermost, middle, outermost body, everything working as expected in series. Okay. However, let's say I do not want my event to bubble up beyond a certain point, right? So I didn't want my event to bubble up beyond middle div, right? So the event here gives me a mechanism to do that. So there is something called as event dot stop propagation, right? So let's see what happens now. First, we'll reload the browser and we'll hit this. Guys, did you see what happened? Did everyone see what happened? First on the innermost div and then on the middle div, but after that, nothing went up. Are we clear, everyone? Okay, so coming back to the point, event.stop propagation will just stop the flow of this event, right? So earlier what was happening is you created an event on one particular innermost element and it just keep going up and up, right? However, wherever you place the stopper, right? So assuming I would have placed the stopper here, what should we expect now? What should we expect now? Guys, someone answer. I've simply put a stop propagation here on the very first element, innermost. That's it. Right? And the topmost guys, they just go away. Right? So what have we done? We've stopped a bubbling event, right? Because any handler in the way can determine that, hey, this thing should not flow up, right? Clear? Everyone, any questions that you guys have? I know it's a new concept, so if you have any questions, please, we can just take a minute. So if we had to monitor all the 4 divs individually, we then have to place stop propagation in all 3 inner divs. So sir, if say we had to monitor all the 4 divs individually, we then have to place stop propagation in the 3 inner divs. I didn't understand your math. Can you repeat yourself? Yes, RB, I'll just do that. Sure, I'll just repeat it once Amit frames this question. If we click in the innermost, in the outermost, also will it show the innermost? That does not make any sense. Say we want to monitor inner div, middle, outer div, and body individually, then how do we do it? When you say monitor, what do you mean? So that will still work, no, Amit? Even if you click this guy, or this guy, or this guy, everything is still working, right? The event which was going up from this guy, that's the only event which will be stopped, right? because it goes from the very bottom to the very top. So did I answer your question, Sunny? Okay, perfect. See, what do we have here? We have event listeners on all of them individually also, right? So please understand this. The event listener on body is intact. The event listener on this one is also intact. The event listener on this one is also intact. However, we have put a stop propagation on this guy, right? So any event going from this to top will be prevented. Is that clear, Amit, Sunny? Okay, any other doubts before I repeat this? So to lock the click, say we have placed not able to understand your math. Shall I unmute you? Go ahead, Amit.
Excuse me. Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Perfectly.
So what I was saying is, suppose right now we are monitoring the click on the innermost div, right, sir? Yes, sir. So say there would be maybe a fancy consideration that I monitor the innermost div, plus I monitor the click on the middle div, plus I monitor the click individually. I mean to say when I click the purple div, the middle div, it should log middle div or yeah, it should log middle div and nothing else. So
Okay.
in that place, I mean, I say suppose you click on inner, it says innermost div. I click on the outermost blue div, it says outer div. Somebody clicks on body. So for that, we will have to place the stop propagation on all the divs.
Correct. So let's just try that out.
Thank you, sir.
Right now we have 4 click listeners, right? We have one on body, one on outermost div, middle, and the innermost div, right? What happens if I place stop propagation? What happens if I simply place stop propagation everywhere, right? Then there is going to be no bubbling at all, right? So when I click on this, it means only a click on this. When I click on this, it means only a click on this. When I click on this, only a click on this. And finally, when I click on this, of course, only a click on this, right? So let's say you were, so a use case of this, Amit, a popular one could be, let's say you wanted to measure the number of clicks, right? Which are happening on this guy, on this guy, on this guy, and on this guy individually, right? In that case, you would need a construct like this. Okay. Now, just to repeat everything, because I don't know, some people are still getting confused. Let's just repeat everything from the very beginning. Okay. What have we talked about? Quick revision. Okay. So just going to remove everything. Okay. Nothing has stop propagation until now. What do we have here? We have here 4 elements which we have selected. The innermost was this innermost div, right? Then there was this guy, then there was this guy, then there was the body finally, right? What I have done is I have selected these 4 elements separately. And to each of them, I have applied an event listener. Which event listener? The click event listener, right? What I told you guys is very simply that in the world of DOM, there is a concept of event bubbling, right? What that means is whenever there is a click on the innermost element, it does not stay there, rather it bubbles up. And can we check that? Yes, we can check that. If I click this, what happened is innermost, middle, outermost body, right? And again, why did this happen? This happened, guys, because the click event, which was done here, right, propagates all the way to the top, right? So basically, as you think of it like this, there was a bubble which was generated here, and that bubble went on to its parent, and finally its parent. So it will just keep going all the way to the ancestors, and their event listeners on click are going to get triggered. So again, in a nutshell, a click event happened on the innermost div and it bubbled up, right? When it's bubbling up, any other click event listener that was on its path will also get triggered. This is what bubbling is. Are we clear now? Everyone, the ones who had asked me to repeat, is it clear? I'll again wait a minute for any questions. Please throw them if you have any questions. The true answer, Abhi, is yes, but that's a very complex topic, right? How you can skip bubbles, and it's not advisable. So that's something which is for very advanced use cases. So Facebook does that, by the way, but it's really beyond our scope since we're just starting with DOM, right? So I won't talk about it. Can we reverse of bubbles? I'll be talking about that. Don't worry. Okay, but are we clear up until this point? Every single one of you? Guys, please ask. This is extremely important. Amit, so that's a very broad question. I mean, I can, of course, start naming all of the topics as such. So it's a broad question. Okay. Cool. Okay. So bubbling is this, right? Then we talked about something called as stopping the propagation, right? So let's say there was a use case where I did not want the click event, which was happening on this div, to go any further up, right? To go any further up this change from inner to middle to outer to body, right? What I can do is I can put a stopper anywhere. And how to put that stopper? You just say event dot stop propagation. What that will immediately do is now the click is not going to be bubbled up, right? So now I'm clicking on this and the event listener of this, only this guy is getting triggered. No for middle div, no for outer div, and no for body, right? And basically wherever you put this thing, that event propagation is going to get stopped, right? So now let's say I clicked on this, it went all the way till outermost div, which is this guy, but it did not go beyond it, right? So stop propagation just stops the propagation of event above that. Are we clear? Okay, Shivam is asking, sir, here the event is a variable name or some keyword. Amit yaar, ye to mat pucho ab. Guys, don't ask these questions na. Now, function hai. Function ke andar I can put anything, right? No, event is not a function name, definitely. With that, this is an anonymous function. It does not have a name. It's a parameter. Parameter can be anything. It could be Amit. And we can say Amit dot stop propagation. It's the same thing, right? Okay. So in the add event listener, it returns the object. It is return the objects event object to param. Sir, try stop in. Should it start from middle? Sir, try stop in inner and outer div only. In inner and outer div only. मतलब what is the question, Ravi? क्या पूछना चाहते हो? Clearly बोलो ना. I'll explain that. What is the question, Ravi? Yes, bubbling starts from inner to outer, correct. You want to stop bubble, right, sir? Yes, we want to stop the bubbling because it goes from the bottom to up. Which short tricks are we? I didn't do any trick here. Oh, you mean this code later on? Yeah, abhi JS ko na. Okay. Anyway, so what did we learn? We learned stopping propagation. Okay. Now consider this case, guys. Let's say middle div, right? It is having another click listener, right? This is valid, right? I can have another click listener. So I'm saying middle div dot I'm event listener click, and I'm also adding another click event listener. Making sense? This bottom to up, right? Suppose we add yesterday code also, it will be bubbled. Just to know, sir, I don't know. It's in yesterday's code. What do you mean, Sunny? Okay, Sunny, I'm not getting your question. Okay. Okay. So click on inner div, click on middle div, click on this guy, and finally this guy, right? And the point that I try to make is, even though on the middle element, right, there were two event listeners now, right? And you can check this by clicking this guy twice, clicking this guy, right? If I click on the middle one, it says click on middle two and click on middle div, right? Again, you can look at it, click on middle two and click on middle div, right? So both the event listeners are getting executed, right? Say I put a stop propagation on this guy, right? Right, guys? So I'm putting a stop propagation on this guy, right? Let's see what happens. I click this. So it says click on middle div 2 and click on middle div, right? The click here is not propagating upwards, right? Even when there are two event listeners attached to it, right? Two different event listeners attached to it. That's the point that I was trying to make. So when you say stop propagation, right? Even if it has two or more listeners, they will not propagate. Okay. But let's take one more use case. Fine, guys. This use case is, this time instead of click, I'm going to have a mouse over listener. I can do that, right? Mouse over, right? Right, folks? Did you understand what I did? And similarly, on the outermost div also, I'll just have this mouse over function. And I'm going to call it mouse on outermost div. Cool. Okay, let's see this. So now when I take my mouse on this, it says mouse on middle div, mouse on middle div, mouse on middle div, right? But the mouse on outermost div did not work because I did not keep a mouse there. Okay, now let's understand this. right? Reload the page. I'm going on this guy. And when I'm going, so it says mouse on outer div, but when I go on this guy, it says mouse on middle div, and it bubbled up to mouse on outer div, right? When I click on this middle div, the event did not propagate, right? Why did that happen? Because on the middle div, on click, you had said event dot stop propagation, right? But so the point that I'm trying to make, guys, is stop propagation happens for the current event type, right? So when in click event listeners, you say event dot stop propagation, it stops the event propagation of clicks and not mouse overs. Make sense, everyone? Everybody clear? Is it a hard concept or is it an easy concept? फिफ्टी क्या होता है मैं हार्ड या इजी hard okay but are you able to understand it Kishore 50-50 so what is the doubt yaar what is the doubt Shubham बताओ क्या नहीं समझ में आया आपको इसमें I'll explain it as many times correct Ravi so a stop of click would not imply a stop of mouse over that's the point I'm trying to make when you mouse over that middle div, it will stop bubbling or not. It will stop if you write even dot stop propagation here. Are we? Right? If you don't, then it will not. There are too many, Amit. Just too many. So what you're asking is not functions, you're asking how many event listeners are there, right? Just frame your question nicely. Okay, perfect. So this was about bubbling, right? So the way browser works is it's whenever there's an event on the bottom one, it bubbles up the event, right? Okay, to the outermost one and all the events, all the event listeners of the same type will get triggered as the event bubbles up. Okay, this was about event listeners and bubbling. Cool. We'll stop event listeners here. Priyanka is saying repeat event.target. Okay, Priyanka. Very simple, right? Whenever there is an event happening, okay, I'll just remove these mouse overs because they are irritating. So whenever you click on this guy, right? Whenever you click on this guy, it shows you the target, right? So target is basically that listener, that element which has started the cycle of propagation. ठीक है? तो अभी के लिए आपने click किया on the innermost. You're logging event or target on the innermost. But even in the case of click listeners, let's say you were to write this here, right? On the body level. Right? Here actually. Even when you do this, it still says, hey, the target was this guy. This is who started the propagation. When you click on this, it says, hey, the target is this guy. And the second thing that I'm logging is event.current target, which means the current element, which detected that. That's it. The HTML which is being targeted, click that. The targeted is the one which starts this, right? Okay, folks. And just for your information, okay, Arvi, no problem. Arvi, it's really the same thing here. See, in case of mouse over also, right? Just like click event propagates, mouse over event also propagates. So any mouse over motion on the middle div will automatically get captured on the outer div, right? So let's try that. Reloading the page. Anything on this guy gets automatically tagged on the outer div also, right? So I go here and it says middle div, outer div. But if I go here only, it just keeps saying outer div. But here it says middle div and outer div, right? So an event which happened, a mouse over event which happened on the middle div just propagated to the outer div. That's it. That's all I said, Arvi. Do you have a doubt? Okay, na? Perfect. Okay, that is it. Commenting this. Okay, so that was all about event bubbling, right? At least the basics that we need to, right? Okay, just one more thing to keep in mind. Event bubbling is not a bad thing, guys. There's a reason that feature was created. The reason is very simple. Just assume that, let's say you had 50 or 100 divs here, right? Small boxes, right? I'll give you a real life example. Okay, so have you seen those online calendars in which you select a date from drop down and then you are selecting those dates, right? Has everyone seen them, guys? Right? So now when you're clicking on a date, right, how does the browser get to know that you clicked on this date? Okay, see, one way is you applying event listener on all those elements, right? All those squares from all the way from 1 to 31st, right? So that would be 31 event listeners that you have to separately handle. But consider the example that you just apply one event listener to the top div of that calendar, which is holding all of these small squares, right? In that case, whenever there is an event, whenever there is a click on any of the boxes, any of the dates, the event listener of the above box will get triggered, right? Of the div will get triggered. And then you can simply check event.target to see, hey, which was the date that was selected. Made sense to everyone? Right? So event bubbling is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Just something to keep in mind, because it can just help you prevent, too many listeners. So one listener can do the job of all its children. That's the point I'm trying to make. Right? Or guys, even a simpler example in our div, right? If you, in this guy, okay, this is actually a good example. Right? So you had all these divs, okay? I'm just going to reload this. So now you have all of these divs, right? And I'll just give it its color back. So the grid parent is now anti-white. Reload. So do you see that this color is anti-white, right? This is one color, right? Now let's say I wanted to simply detect. Okay, let's do one question. I wanted to detect on which div did a click happen, right? And I want to write it here. Okay, so let's do this question very quickly. Let's say H4. Click on Sunday. Okay, so just like this, click on. So what the question is this, everyone, please pay attention. Please pay attention. Whenever you click on any particular div, you need to write its name here. So if it's item 1, item 1, item 8, whatever, right? Can anyone, a very good question, guys. Can anyone think about this? Will clear all your concepts in one shot. Come on, guys, someone think. Who has an answer? Yes, I was actually about to say that. Shivam, shall I unmute you? Perfect. आ जाओ शिवम. Hello.
Hello.
Hi Shivam.
Yes, sir.
Help me out, Shivam. Whichever div I click, I want to write its name here.
Okay, sir. Uh, Now, sir, we can apply add event listener on the top div.
Okay. So guys, what Shivam is saying is there are two approaches to do it. Either to all of these elements, right, Shivam? We can apply event listeners. So that will be 3 here, 4 here, and 1. Either we can apply 8 or 9 event listeners, right?
Yeah.
That is definitely one way. But that will just unnecessarily complicate. So what is the simple way of doing it, Shivam?
Sir,
सही बोल रहे थे, बोलो आगे.
या सर हम जो टॉप की div है उस पे add event
This is the
listener
top div,
apply कर सकते
right?
हैं.
This is the top div.
Grid parent. Yeah.
Okay. So let's do this. We have the grid parent. Let me mention that. No, Anjali, that's actually a bad idea. Think why. Elements by class name grid parent of 0. ठीक है?
Yeah.
अब इस पे we'll say grid parent dot add event listener.
Add event listener
Click.
and click and arrow function, and we can pass one parameter.
Which will be event.
Yeah, event.
Okay. Then
Now, sir, sir, we can hold the reference of the H heading tag.
perfect.
Yeah.
So let's just give it an ID heading.
Yeah.
Document element ID heading. Heading. Okay.
And sir, okay.
Heading dot inner text, of course, right?
Inner text
अब यहाँ लिखना है, that's the important bit.
equal to, and sir, we can specify event dot target.
Good one, Sunny. Good one, Shivam. So we'll store that in a variable. Const,
Yeah.
target text, right? Not target, because target is a DOM node. So
Yeah.
dot target
Dot
right?
target.
Inner text, correct?
Yeah.
And then we can just say heading dot inner text is what?
Target text.
नहीं, that will
Sir,
colon के बाद लिखना है.
Okay.
You want to say click on space, whatever.
Yeah. Sir, plus we can say heading dot inner target plus equal to
plus. This?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or we can sort.
Does this work?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay, let's try this. Let's try this, guys. Shall we try this? Okay, go here, reload the page. Now let's click on this one. See, perfectly works. Item 6, item 8. Of course, you need to remove them each time, otherwise it will just keep concatenating. Right? I'm reloading the page each time. 6, 4, and that's how you keep going. Innermost. Easy enough, right?
Yes.
Everyone clear with the example? Right? But if we had not used the concept of bubbling, what we would have to do, we would have had to apply event listener on each one of them. Right? And that's where the concept of bubbling is saving us. Pretty good, right, guys?
Okay.
Repeat example. Shivam, can you repeat this?
Yes, sir.
एक बार सबको समझा दो, चलो.
ओके सर, सबसे पहले जो हमने पेरेंट टिप है उस पे एक इवेंट लिस्टनर अप्लाई किया।
ओके
ओके, एंड देन उसमें दो पैरामीटर पास किए। फर्स्ट इज क्लिक मींस ऑन क्लिक, and then second one is callback function which takes up one parameter as
Okay.
a event.
Good.
Now in second line we are holding the reference of the heading
Correct.
in a variable heading,
Correct.
and now after that we are creating a variable to hold the text of the target div
Okay.
in
And
a
how does this
target
work?
text.
I think this is where Shivam, a lot of people will have a doubt. How is this working internally? Event.target.current text कैसे चल रहा है?
Okay. Sir, मुझ
Okay.
मैं explain करूँ? Okay.
No worries. मैं explain कर.
Okay.
You can mute yourself. See, guys, what we have
Okay,
done
sir.
is we have applied an event listener on the topmost parent, right? Which is this yellowish kind of color, right? Right. That time, what is going on is whenever you click on any one of its child, right? We know that an event which is done here bubbles up, right? And when a click event happens here, it's going to bubble up all the way to its parent, right? Which is the grid parent on which we have a click listener, right? What I'm doing there is in there, I'm just saying, hey, what was the element which started it? Because here, like we learned, event.target is basically the element where this propagation or where this event started, right? So when I click this, right, reloading the browser, when I click this guy, what would have happened is the event.target would have become this one, right? Now, when event.target is this, I'm simply reading its inner text, which is item 5, right? Then very simply, I'm just replacing heading.innerText with this thing, and that's it. Now, is everyone clear with the example? Adam, Shubham? Absolutely clear, right? Perfect. But if you did not know about the technique of bubbling, what you would have had to do, guys, you would have had to apply event listener on each one of them, right? इस पे भी लगाना पड़ता है, इस पे भी लगाना पड़ता है, इस पे भी, everyone, you had to apply an event listener, right? But now that you know that events bubble up, you can just capture one event on the topmost parent, and that's it. Last line, please repeat. Umesh, are you talking about this line? अरे यार उमेश, heading dot inner text पकड़ा, उसके अंदर whatever heading का inner text था वो लिया and just concatenated that string. Template literal पढ़ा तो था उस दिन. Revise करो class, template literal वाला. Body पे click लगाने से सब select कर लेगा sir. Yes, if you apply a click listener on body, then you will be able to detect all of these things. But Shivendra, that's not what you want. You want inside of this yellow wala where a click happened, right? But in case of body, that will not solve the problem, right? Because अगर आपने body पे click किया तो यहाँ पे वो भी दिख जाएगा, which is not what we want. We want whatever happens inside this yellow portion. Sir, please write the line code to stop propagation in the previous example. But here there is no propagation happening, ना चिन्मय. आपने event listener ही यहाँ पे लिखा है on the grid parent. So, oh, you want me to just write that line? Hey, that is just this here. Event dot stop propagation. That's it. Yes, 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 done that. Right. So using the technique of bubbling, we have saved ourselves from having to apply 10 event listeners, or 10 is a very small example, guys. There could be a case when there could be hundreds. Now, how to reset the click me text? Are you talking about this one? Amit, are you talking about this one? How to reset this? कुछ भी नहीं है यार. मतलब, see, what you could have done is, instead of having this, you could just have said click. What was it? Click on, right? Colon. Now, each time you do it, it will not start appending. It will always take click on, and to that you will be adding. So solved, right? So we've solved it, right? Click, 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 click. Are we, Amit, clear? उसका कोई inner text नहीं है ना, Amit. So basically a click there was identified everywhere, right? So what is the inner text of this guy? The inner text of this guy is the inner text of all of them, right? Because how does inner text work? It takes all the text which is inside that div element, right? No, so you can solve that issue, of course, very simply by putting an if check there, that if it's actually happening. Okay, Amit has actually raised a good question. See, in this case, if event.target is the same as event.current target, right? When can this happen, Amit? अरे छोड़ो ना, इधर देखो अमित. When can this happen? Guys, please look at this condition. When can this condition happen? Amit, please think. Guys, event.target is equal to event.current target. When can this happen? When you click on the bigger guy, right? On this guy, right? In that case, what we can do is simply return from that function and don't do anything else. Right? Reload the page. Now you click on this, perfect, click on this, perfect, click on this, click on this, click on this, click on this. But when you click on this, nothing happens. Right? Did we understand, everyone? Because we returned from here. So none of the code after that got executed. So Amit has actually given us a good question. The question, we can frame the question like this. If there is a click on here, right, we can say, for doing return, please click only on inner elements. Go ahead, reload the page. If you click on this, it's fine. If you click on this, okay, something problem has happened. Heading before initialization, because heading was initialized here. So I'll just move it here. Go back, reload the browser, and works fine when you click here. When you click here, it says, please click only on the inner elements, and done. Everyone clear? Good one, Amit. Please remember, this is not, please remember, this thing is I mean, it's a good solution. There are other ways to do it, but this is a very smart way to do it, right? We're just checking, hey, if it's originated from the original element, then don't do anything. Cool. I think we have discussed event bubbling in too much detail now today. Fine, guys. We'll stop here, definitely. I know it's getting heavy now. Everything is bubbling inside now. Thank you, guys. Did you enjoy? Everyone, did you enjoy? Right? Lots of learning for us, right? Wonderful. Wonderful, Amit. Glad you guys liked it. Thank you, Madhubala. Thank you, everyone. Glad you guys enjoyed it. Yeah, revision will be needed, but I hope the concepts that we discussed are clear, right? Yes, then a revision will do it, man. Are you going to take DSA on weekends, Chinmay? Not during January, Chinmay, but maybe later. Yeah, I will try to find some time if it's possible, because you guys will have a full-time DSA instructor now. So I can't get in the middle of that, right? Yes.